Alright, Trekkers and Trekkers, time for the second episode of the day, which is Resurrection. Major Kira and Dax are in a turbo heading ops, discussing who Kira will bring to the dinner Dax invited her to. Dax makes several suggestions, including Captain Baudet, all of whom Kira rejects, mostly because they have obvious non-humanoid characteristics. Dax suggests she invite Odo, but Kira would prefer to pretend she never even brought that idea up, and so she'll be coming to dinner alone. Shortly after they arrive, and Dax despairs over Kira's pickiness. Shortly after they arrive, and Dax despairs over Kira's pickiness, O'Brien detects an unusual transporter signal. A man appears on a transporter pad, huddled as if hurt. When Kira approaches to his condition, he reveals his disruptor and the fact that he seems to be Vedic Borelli. It can't be, Kira says, shocked. Borelli takes Kira hostage and demands a ship. Captain Sisko alerts the security of hostage situation and directs Borelli to landing pad A. Borelli grabs a piece of food and then informs Kira that they will be walking rather than taking the turbo lift. On the way, Borelli mentions that he doesn't recognize Kira's uniform and asks about the alliance. Kira informs him that there is no alliance, and Borelli confirms to himself that he has actually crossed over. Kira continues to serve as his hostage until they reach the landing pad, where she reveals that she doesn't believe he is dangerous because his disruptor is functional due to a cracked power cell. After physically subduing him, Odo's security guards emerge from the airlock and take him into custody. Odo notes that the man's resemblance to Vedic Borelli is striking. And holding himself, Kira interrogates him. He confirms that his name is Borelli Antos and expresses interest in meeting himself. Kira affirms him that his counterpart is dead. Borelli deduces that Kira was close to him. Kira questions how he got an interdimensional transporter, but Borelli brushes off the question and tells her he is just a rundown thief looking for a better life, which led him to this universe. Later in his office, Captain Sisko expresses disbelief that Kira doesn't want to press charges. Kira tells him that she feels bad for him, understands his feelings given her previous experience with the mirror universe. Captain Sisko changes his tone and warns her that she has a difficult situation in front of her, reminding his experience when the mirror Jennifer Sisko visited. Kira assures Sisko that the differences between the Borellis are sharp enough for her to maintain distance. Later, Borelli is walking the promenade trying to dodge the stares of virtually all the passers-by. He sees Kira and calls out to her, thanking her for giving him a break. He mentions the staring crowd, and Kira explains how much of a popular figure Vedic Borelli was. Borelli resents herself to the attention and thanks her again. When she is going to temple, Borelli declines to enter. Kira accepts his hesitance, then is surprised when he comes in part way through the ceremony. He explains that he needs a new start and the prophets may be able to help. After the ceremony, Kira asks his opinion and says he envies her faith but feels that he has lived too long without it to ever be as invested. Kira encourages him to think about it more. When he mentions he doesn't really have plans, Kira invites him to dinner. At dinner, Borelli entertains Dax and Kira with the story of how he outwitted a Klingon guard and stole a mek'leth in an escape. Whoever specialist in music expresses enormous doubt that Borelli could have stolen a mek'leth from a Klingon warrior. Whereupon Borelli pronounces Worf's own mek'leth to cut the desert, and hands it back to him, which presses the Klingon. Worf offers Borelli more blood wine. After dinner, Borelli and Kira walk together down a corridor. Borelli tells Kira she is a fortunate woman. She has good friends. Kira tells Borelli that he sounds surprised and figures that he must have a friend or two back where he comes from. Borelli tells her he did once, but doesn't go into too much detail. Feeling sorry for him, Kira invites him back to quarters for a Raktajino. Staying together on a couch, Borelli recalls meeting a woman named Lysaea, whom he tried to steal money from in Ilvia. He eventually taught her how to be a thief, and they were together for 5 years. He then remembers the two of them going into a bar one night for dinner when a drunken Cardassian fired his disruptor and killed her. After telling Kira this story, she and Borelli kiss. Waking up together, Borelli jokes with Kira about how confused she must be. Kira reiterates that she knows the difference between the two Borellis and describes her version of him. She's surprised when Borelli is able to finish one of the Vedic's quotes and admits he did some research. In Ops, Dr. Bashir delivers a report on medical requisitions to Dax that could have easily been transmitted. When Dax accuses him of hanging around purely for gossip's sake, he only makes a token objection. When Kira appears, she gives a brief, uninformed description of Borelli, then she starts a knowing look with Dax once the doctor has left. Later, Bradley's pacing in the temple with Kira, nervous because of his impending orb experience. Kira assures him he has nothing to worry about. The Vedic eventually arrives to focus Bradley before leading him to the orb. Bradley Kira observes as the Vedic turns off the force field and moves forward and looks into the orb. At the Red Bull mat afterwards, Bradley looks dazed and introspective. He tries to put his feelings into words, but is having trouble, which Kira assures him is normal. He begins describing what he saw, but Kira gets uncomfortable and tells him that the visions he saw should remain private. He says he feels as if he could sleep for days, and Kira encourages him to rest. When he arrives at his quarters, he is greeted by the intended Kira. The attendant asks him how their plans are progressing, and Borelli tells her everything is fine. Upon discovering that he has become involved with the other Kira, the attendant is ecstatic and asks him to compare them. He praises the other Kira's virtues over hers, and she briefly becomes angry, but then consoles herself by berating Borelli and reminding him that Kira is too good for him. She asks him if stealing the orb is going to present a problem, and tells her it won't be. She reminds him that with the orb they can unite Bajor against the Alliance, and he will be the next best thing to a king. She questions why he isn't more excited, and he explains that he is tired from looking into the orb. Later, Borelli's drinking a corpse and snaps at the staring Bajoran crowd. Quark backs him and starts chatting about his resemblance to Vedic Borelli. Borelli recognizes that Quark is leading up to a business proposition, and lets him outline his dubious scheme. Quark suggests that Borelli dress up in robes and have the Bajoran people line up to see him, perhaps even touch his hand. Borelli rejects and says that he has dealt with men like Quark his whole life, that right now he likes neither him nor himself very much. In a cargo bay, Quark rides to pick up a shipment of Saurian brandy and sees Kira checking inventory. He starts chatting about Borelli and says that he approves of their pairing. He notices Borelli is different from the men she usually picks. Kira starts to dismiss him, but Quark warns her that Borelli seems tormented and spent a lot of time wandering around inside the temple after leaving his bar. Kira dismisses that as well, assuming that Borelli just had an orb experience and Quark should know how draining it is. Quark admits it's possible, but also suggests that Borelli was figuring out how to rob the temple. He leaves Kira pondering. Borelli returns to his quarters to find the intended Kira dressed up as Kira Nerys. She reminds him of their timetable, and Borelli assures that everything is going according to plan. He is, however, preoccupied. The assessed Kira goes to a secure cargo bay and tries to gain entry, but the Bajoran security guard won't let her through without the authorization code. She expresses despair and then complains about a sore shoulder. She encourages the flustered guard to rub it for her, and then complies, and then Kira subdues him. She goes into a cargo transporter and reconfigures it with the interdimensional transporter device. Meanwhile, Borelli breaks into temple and is about to steal the orb when Kira confronts him. He thinks she's the mirror Kira at first, but her words reveal to him that she's the local one. She says how she knew, and she explains that she didn't, but Quark did. She can't understand why he's doing it until the mirror Kira arrives and explains. She will explain that her Borelli is a spineless, irredeemable thief who duped her completely and encourages Borelli to tell Kira the same thing. Borelli says stuns the mirror Kira. Local Kira warns him that she will kill him when she awakes, and he brushes the warning off, staying still with her anger before. He reveals that he saw the two of them living together with the family's orb vision. Kira asks him what would be wrong about such a life, and answers that he would just screw it up because he doesn't belong. After it's transported, and he and the mirror Kira disappear. Kira stands there alone, saddened. Aww. So anyway, let's take a look at some background information from this episode. The opening scene as shot was different from the opening scene that aired, had to be cut for timing reasons. Originally, the episode opens at Kira's quarters, with Kira and Jadzia Dax looking at Ciel's paintings. Dax points out that Kira still misses Ciel, to which Kira answers, "I'll get over it. Death and I are old friends." Dax suggests that Kira bring Death to dinner. They get up and leave the room, and the scene picks up at the corridor as seen in the finished episode. A cut line from the script would reveal that Worf served aboard the starship USS Hawk as an ensign, and also stated that the Hawk was hit by an unknown anomaly on Worf's second day out of port. The final draft script was submitted on September 17th, 1997. And now finally, let's take a look at some trivia. Canto Bight is mentioned for the third time in this episode, having previously been referred to in the Maquis Part 2 and let he who is without sin. Revealed that he and Jadzia Dax had had dinner together several times. Kira points out to Quark that he's had an orb experience. She's referring to the episode Profit Motive. Although Michael Taylor is credited as writing the episode, Ira Stephen Bear said that he was his, and the bulk of what you see on screen is work of him and Hans Beimler. This episode features a reversal of the standard Mirror Universe episode format insofar as the story involves someone from their universe visiting the normal universe. It's the other way around. It also differs from the traditional Mirror Universe format, at least for DS9 Mirror Universe episodes, because no one is killed in this episode. This is the only Mirror Universe related episode with no scenes in the Mirror Universe. Craig Lofton, who plays Jake Sisko, does not appear in this episode, ending a stretch of 9 episodes in which he does appear, his longest stretch of the series. On the show playing Borelli at the dinner is a trophy Worf won at the Battle competition in the Star Trek Next Generation episode Parallels, another episode concerning parallel universes. When Borelli is beamed into Ops, Jack mentions that there are no ships in range. DS9 had previously been established as the HQ for the Ninth Fleet, therefore a good number of Klingon and Federation vessels should be nearby. It's also possible they left on a mission or for another unspecified reason. This is Deep Science only Mirror Universe episode not to feature Miles Smiley O'Brien, Liam Garrick, and the Terran Marauder. Interesting. So I think this episode is pretty good, and hey, I do like a good Mirror Universe episode, so yeah. So overall, I give Resurrection 3 warp cores out of 5. When I tune up as we check the final episode of the day, statistical probabilities. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.